Good day, my friends. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm the Oklahoma Guru. Now, I was born in Bakersfield, California, but my dad's side of the family came from Oklahoma. Many of them had strong accents, and so I picked it up myself. My videos are going to be about philosophy, science, and religion. But I figured I'd talk about the family first because if I have something valid to say or something of worth to you, you might want to know where I get it from. So the first person I'd like to introduce you to is Ella Ticha, also known as Alatak. Well, she was married to a man named John McClure. But I'll go back to Ella. She was Chickasaw and raised in the Chickasaw Nation. There was a custom that you didn't marry one of the women there unless you were part of their tribe. Well, John McClure, he was a trapper and a missionary, and but he was out and he found a brave and a bad kind of way with a bear, and he was able to go ahead. Just say it, Ronnie.
No, that was Smith Paul that did that.
So how'd John McClure get into it?
John McClure was an English missionary that was living with them at the time and married to Ella Ticha. Smith Paul came and saved and was adopted into the Chickasaw tribe after saving Ella Ticha's brother.
Oh, okay, I got you. Now, so John McClure wasn't adopted into the family?
He was also he was a missionary, but he was able to marry because they accepted him as one of their own too.
There you go. So John McClure, being accepted into the tribe, was able to marry Ella Ticha, but John McClure eventually died of rabies, or some say he committed suicide because he didn't want to go through the pain. But either way, he's dead. But now Ella's without a husband, and here comes Smith Paul, and he was the one who saved the brother of Ella Ticha from the bear attack. Is that right?
Yes.
So Smith Paul married Ella Ticha, and they had a son named Sam Paul. Now, Sam Paul was a ruffian. He had became a lawman of the Chickasaw Nation eventually, but he also became a marshal, a deputy marshal of the United States government. Now, here's a portrayal of him by John Wayne in True Grit. He was known as Rooster Cogburn, or at least he became the inspiration for the movie or the character Rooster Cogburn. Now, he had a nephew named Fred Waite. Now, Fred Waite was running with Billy the Kid and the Regulators, and you can see his host of friends and who he was hanging out with. But he soon left and became a politician and a teacher and a senator, actually, of the Chickasaw Nation. So now Sam married a woman named Sarah Lambert. Now, they had all kinds of trouble between the two of them. Eventually, Sam Paul went to prison, and Sarah, being pregnant, she didn't let Sam Paul know that she was pregnant and decided to give the child, when it was born, to her sister, Julie Lambert. And so, because Julia, she lost her baby at the same time, so that's the way they hid Hattie. Hattie been known as a Corley for a long time, but we found out through a cousin of ours, James Phillips, that Hattie was actually a Paul, and Hattie had actually told him. Jim had lived with her for a long time. Well, just to let you know that Hattie and married a man named Harry Stewart, who was Obadwa, or Sue, actually. Now, at the time, they didn't want people to know of their Indian race, so they kind of kept it hid all the time because there was a lot of bad things going on. But they had woman named daughter named Clara Cooley. Now Clara, you see her stogie in her hand, the bottom there, but she is a wonderful woman. She raised me for at least up to about 9 years old. And then her daughter, Anita Starkey, or Anita Farrar, which she was known as, but Anita Cooley was her maiden name. She raised us until I was 18 years old, did a good job. But then there was other folks in my life named Anita, Stanley and Christine. Stanley was the brother of Anita, great influence on my life. And so I just welcome those who would want to hear more about my colorful family. Uh, they Now I've got a picture here of the crowd that used to hang out at the house all the time, and you see my great grandmother in the middle, and we were. She was the center of the family. She was the matriarch. But now coming to my mom and dad, now they not in the best of way, and eventually they had to move away and find their own path. And so, like I said, Anita Starkey finally raised us and did good by us. But now there's a family on the other side. They're known as the Nauvoo Connection. They were cousins of a man back in 1807. I show you an outline of the family history and how they're linked to me. But they actually were in Nauvoo at the same time old Joseph Smith and Brigham Young were. I was always wondering if I ever had any ancestors that lived with the saints at that time, and sure enough, I just found out they did. And so, but they eventually they came out to Utah and lived out there. And some of the people that you see in the picture here, that's you can look them up on Google or something like that, kind of find their history. But then got a question. Who do we trust? We trust the family? Now, Sam Paul, you can see in my collection of pictures here, not a very honorable man in a lot of ways. I mean, he was all the things you hear about the days of the Wild West. He was part of that Wild West. His first killing was a man that was kind of mocking him and kind of bringing some bad rumors or truths about that he didn't like. And so Sam and his friend went down to the bar and, found the man and goaded him into a fight, basically. And Sam and his friend shot him like 8 times. Now, Sam was a very brilliant man. He actually knew 17 languages, 17 different languages, Native American languages. So he wasn't stupid. Now, I'll say he became a politician. But anyway, if you want to know more about him, you can always go ahead and comment, say, hey, I want to know more about him. And I'm always willing to make a long video of him. But next is, do we trust our friends or our peers? Now, if you look at the friends of Fred Waite, that's a rough crowd there. Oh, Billy the Kid, right? Smack in the middle of all kinds of chaos. Fred Waite, after the Lincoln County War, he left them. But but that was his friends. It's kind of hard to trust your friends sometimes because they might tell you things that might take you away from what would be good for you. Well, what about ourselves? Can we really look to ourselves to really find happiness, or can we find it to be on the path that will bring us the most success in life? Sometimes. But it always doesn't happen that way, because sometimes as teenagers, we grow up, we think we know everything and not listening to nobody. Well, we're listening to people, but the wrong people usually. They're telling us what happiness is, and then we eventually got to look in that mirror and say, am I really doing what's really making me happy? Because I tell you right now, you're not really going to be happy unless people around you that care about you the most, really care about you the most, willing to bring you into the world as a child and raise you all those years. Are you making them happy? Because if you're not making them happy, I'm sure you're probably not real happy with some of the decisions you're making if it's contrary to what their wishes are. What about entertainers? Can we trust the entertainers? Yeah, they're pretty smart, some of them. Some got pretty high education, science educations and all that. A lot of them, they kind of went on the wrong path. Robin Williams, he killed himself. He was depressed all the time, trying to get through that. And there's a lot of people that took drugs, including Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, them guys. Famous people, great talent. But would you take advice from them to live your life by? Well, if you want to live a real short life, I guess you would. What about professors and scholars? Are you willing to take a chance on what they have to teach you? Now, they might get you to a position where you can be successful, but sometimes they teach you things that might not be the most advantageous in your life. So you got to be careful on who you're listening to. Some professors tell you to hate. That ain't no good. Some professors tell you that the Earth was created or started in its creation about 13 billion years ago. I can tell you right now, that's not even close to being mathematically correct. Too many universes, like 500 billion universe or galaxies in the universe, and about 30 trillion planets in each one of those galaxies. Math don't work. Then you got to come up with a different idea or solution. I get my computer back up here. I can't see what's going on. Need to remind myself what I'm talking about. But the next ones are the scientists. If you look at the scientists, you got this guy named George Lemaitre. He scientist and a mathematician from the Catholic Church. Well, guess what he created? What Fred Hoyle called the Big Bang. He's the one who was talking to Fred Hoyle one day in the 40s or 30s, whatever it was, and he was telling him about how God created the universe from a single point. And old Fred Hoyle, he says, well, that just sounds like a Big Bang. Now, do you see my problem here? Now, Fred Hoyle's an atheist, and Lemaitre, he's a Catholic, probably devout Catholic. So, who's right in that circumstance? And then you have Stephen Hawking. He's an atheist, says Big Bang and how things were created. But then you got Albert Einstein, one of the greatest well-known scientists in the world. He says pretty much the same thing as Fred Hoyle. So we got to be careful on who we accept as being the influence in our minds and our hearts. So I'm going to sign off now. But you know, if you just listen to the family, they'll tell you what to do. Signing out now.